Okay. In terms of questions, we'll have some time at the end of the presentations, but as we're going, if you have any questions that pop up, just feel free to write them in the chat. Again, the recording will be sent in a follow-up email along with the slides, and they'll both also be posted on the Electric Ride 805 website if you guys want access to them after. Next slide. Okay, in terms of our agenda, I'm going to be doing a short intro on who Electric Ride 805 is. Then we're going to be joined by Jessica from the World Resources Institute to talk about the Electric School Bus Initiative, followed by Sam from Forefront Power. After that, we will be joined by the Tri-County APCDs to share a bit more about funding opportunities for their school bus programs. In terms of questions for Jessica, she does have to leave before our Q&A session, so we'll try to leave some room after her presentation to address any of those. Okay, go ahead, Sean. Okay, so who we are. Electric Ride 805 is a coalition of local governments and nonprofit partners dedicated to achieving a rapid and equitable transition to electric vehicles and zero emission transportation within our 805 region. So that's Santa Barbara, Ventura, and SLO counties. Okay, and then again, like we mentioned, you can find a ton of resources on the Electric Ride 805 website. You can sign up for our newsletter. You'll definitely get the invites to our open stakeholder meetings, and you can see a lot of the ones that we've had in the past. They're up on the site along with the slides. So yeah, and then any questions, you can always reach out to the network itself. You can reach out to me specifically or Sean from CEC as well. Okay, and with that, I'll pass it on to Jessica.
Awesome. Thanks, Kat. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm a manager at World Resources Institute, or we say WRI, and I work on our electric school bus initiative. I'm actually not in California right now. I'm in Atlanta, so it's dark. But WRI is a global research nonprofit with a mission of securing a sustainable future. So we focus on topics affecting people, nature, and climate. We have more than 2,000 staff at WRI working across the world. We have 9 different country offices. Next slide. So on our electric school bus initiative specifically, our goal is to build an unstoppable momentum to electrify school buses here in the US. We work across sectors. We work with schools, manufacturers, utilities, funding and financing institutions and agencies, and policymakers to transform the market. And underpinning our work is equity to ensure that the transition to electric school buses is equitable and that underserved communities are prioritized. Next slide. So why electrify school buses? So school buses represent a really unique opportunity for electrification. There are almost 500,000 school buses in the US, transporting about 20 million students every school day across the country. Collectively, these school buses are taking 7 billion trips each year. So that means that electrifying the full US school bus fleet by 2030 would reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 9 million metric tons per year, which is the equivalent of taking 2 million cars off the road. So one, it's a really huge decarbonization opportunity. Another good reason to electrify school buses is the timing. So the current average age of the school bus fleet is about 9.5 years, and the average retirement age for school buses is 15 years. So this means that in the next few years, many of these buses will be reaching their retirement age and can be replaced with electric. And then something I think especially unique is that the yellow school bus is iconic. Everyone recognizes them. If you see a school bus rolling down the street, you know what it is, you know what it's doing, usually. And you know that you trust it to safely transport your children to and from school. So if we transform possibly the most iconic vehicle, the yellow school bus to electric, we can normalize electric mobility for an entire generation. So if kids grow up riding an electric school bus, electric will be the norm for them, which I think is something that can be incredibly powerful for moving electrification forward. Next slide. And there's also just so many other benefits for school bus electrification. There's improved health and cognitive outcomes for children. As mentioned, there's more than 20 million children riding the school bus every day. And the vast majority of these school buses are running on diesel. Diesel exhaust is a known carcinogen that has been well studied. There's proven links to serious physical health issues like asthma, cancer, and a ton of other respiratory illnesses, as well as having negative impacts on cognitive development. So more electric school buses on the road reduces these harms to children. With electric school buses, they have zero tailpipe emissions. I think everybody probably knows that. So we get cleaner air, less airborne particulates, which we know have a disproportionate impact on low income and communities of color. Electric school buses can also offer lower operating costs through reduced maintenance. So the electric versions have significantly less parts than an ICE vehicle. So there's just less work to be done. So districts are seeing savings in that. There's often also fuel cost savings for districts as electricity tends to be cheaper and less volatile than diesel and gas. It can bring new green job opportunities in manufacturing and maintenance, not just for the buses, but for the chargers, for the batteries, sort of every part of that new ecosystem. Um, and with 500,000 buses, electrifying the school bus fleet can be that tipping point for medium heavy duty fleet electrification. And the last one is, I think, uh, especially important or good. The electric school buses can offer entirely new opportunities to be grid assets and provide increased community resiliency through vehicle grid integration. So the electric school bus, unlike any other fuel type, can send power back to the grid to help with blackouts and brownouts. They can ensure that like electric utilities don't have to turn on these old dirty peaker plants, which are significantly more polluting. They can also send power back to buildings. So school sites are often designated as emergency shelters. And so in the event of a natural disaster, the buses can now provide power to the building. If it's paired with solar and battery storage, they can also run completely on renewable energy. So no other fuel type bus can do that. So there are just a lot of great benefits and reasons why you'd want to electrify your school bus fleet. Next slide. So we should also electrify school buses because the harms of diesel buses and pollution are inequitable. So low-income students disproportionately rely on the school bus. Communities of color experience 61 to 75% more on-road fine PM air pollution than white Americans, and Native children are 1.5 times more likely to suffer from asthma than non-Hispanic white children. We did a study and we found that the dirtiest and most polluting diesel buses from pre-2010 are disproportionately concentrated in low-income communities with higher shares of minority residents. So electrifying school buses is a way to address these inequities. Next slide. So some of the challenges of electrification, the top one is probably the big one. There's higher upfront costs. So the current price tag of an electric school bus is approximately 3 times the cost of a diesel bus. So that's a big challenge. Infrastructure development, so building out that infrastructure is also complicated. It takes time and money, which is especially difficult for already underfunded and capacity constrained school districts, like public schools especially. It's a new technology, so most school districts are not really familiar with electric vehicles, particularly the chargers. I've worked with a lot of transportation departments, and they have not engaged with their electric utilities usually. So the charging piece is a pretty big learning curve for a lot of them. Um, there exists a number of technology myths. Range anxiety is a big one, but we know that electric school buses can fulfill the needs of about 90% of routes today. Um, Unlike transit routes, school bus routes tend to be shorter. They have a set schedule. They typically only run 2 times a day, AM and PM runs, versus all day like a transit bus. So their duty cycles are actually really well suited for electrification. There's also the idea that they can't work in cold weather. but we know that they do, and this has been proven in many cold areas, including in places in Canada. So First Student operates a fully electric fleet in LaSalle near Quebec. Fully electric meaning they don't have a backup diesel or gas bus. They just have electric buses. And last winter, the temperatures reached below 35. So very cold, and they didn't lose a single day of operation to the cold weather. Um, there is battery degradation in cold weather, and operating electric buses in cold weather isn't without challenges, so I don't want to be dismissive of that. It's not as easy as, sunny 70 degrees. But if you properly plan for it, electric school buses can and do operate well in cold weather. Next slide. So for the status of school bus electrification, as mentioned, there are about 500,000 school buses on the road today, but only about 1% of those on the road are electric. There is, however, growing momentum with electric school buses, especially over the last few years, as you can see in that graph there. Electric school buses are now committed in 49 states, Washington, D.C., multiple territories, and tribal nations. This is largely driven by the EPA's Clean School Bus Funding Program. So every big bump you see in that graph is when there was a Clean School Bus Award announced. You might be wondering what committed means. So our definition is when a school district or fleet operator has been awarded funding to purchase the electric school bus or has a formal agreement in place to purchase it from a manufacturer or dealer. We don't count it as committed if they've just expressed interest or stated they plan to purchase. There has to be something formal in place. Next slide. So this map shows where there are electric school buses, and as you can see, they're already operating in every type of community, whether that's urban, rural, or suburban. School districts in California, New York, and Illinois are leading the way in the country. You'll see California there. Y'all are much further ahead of other states with over 3,400 committed electric school buses. California was also the first state to have an electric school bus back in 2014. So we're now more than a decade since the first electric school bus hit the road in your state. There are currently over 14,000 committed electric school buses across the country, which is about 3% of the school bus fleet committed, not on the road. On the road, we're about 1%. Next slide. So in California specifically, y'all have the third largest school bus fleet in the country with about 24,000 school buses. Only New York and Texas have larger school bus fleets, and each of those states have 47,000 buses. So a decent amount more, but y'all have a lot too. So total committed electric school buses in California is around 3,400, and close to 1,500 of those are already on the road today. Um, and as mentioned, you guys are way ahead of the rest of the country with already 14% of your school bus fleet committed electric, and 6% of that fleet is on the road electric. And if you recall, nationally, the number of electric school buses committed is just under 3%. We're at 1% for on the road, and these include California, so you're kind of carrying the country, really, in these numbers. So thank you. Keep it up. We're here to help. I'll share some resources later. Next slide. So all of this data that I just went through is explained in much more depth in our electric school bus data dashboard. The data set and technical note are free, available on our website for anyone to download and dig into if you want to look into it. There's a ton more information that I didn't go over. So yeah, check it out. Next slide. So resources for school districts or anyone really, we have over 300 different tools and resources on our website. They're all publicly available. They're all free to download. I'll share some of the top ones in the next slide. I don't know why my doorbell's ringing. Sorry, this is really weird. Anyway, but I wanted to highlight here that we offer free what we call office hours. So any district can sign up to chat with us for half an hour, ask questions about electric school buses. We have an incredible cohort of electric school bus ambassadors. There are 14 school district staff across the country who have deployed electric school buses, and they're always happy to share their experience, tips, just talk to other school districts who are in the process of electrification or even just thinking about electric school buses and may have questions. We know that schools often prefer to hear directly from their peers who are doing the work on the ground day in and day out rather than organizations like us. So we're happy to facilitate those connections through this program. We have a step-by-step guide that includes a spreadsheet of all the things that you may want to consider and plan for when you're electrifying your school buses. And that guide links out to a bunch of resources at each step. So I'll go over that in a bit. Finally, I just wanted to mention this because this is a California audience. Your state provides a lot of additional funding opportunities for electric school buses, which I know they'll talk about later. But there's also technical assistance for districts. So CalSTART runs a program called Cal Fleet Advisor that supports any school districts at no cost with planning for school bus electrification. So if you are a school district, that's a great resource if you haven't already reached out to them. Next slide. So quickly, just a sample of the kind of resources we have. This is based on our step-by-step guide. So for foundation setting, we have things like a why electric school bus template deck that school staff or community members can use to customize and present to their school boards or other decision makers to support electric school buses. We have a market study and buyer's guide that lists all the various electric school bus vehicle models and specs. We update this every year. We just published the 2025 version last month in October, and it now includes some charger considerations. So it's very like refreshed recently. Next slide. For charging infrastructure and operations planning, we have a power planner guide. This is for getting the chargers up and running and how you can engage with your electric utility. So questions you want to be asking them. We have a charge management catalog. We have Charger 101 videos, just tons of stuff on charging. Next slide. For procurement and installation, we have a TCO calculator. We have a business model guide. We have an RFP template, which we've heard is really helpful for districts who are looking to procure an electric school bus and chargers for the first time, and they might need some support figuring out what they should be asking for vendors to include. Next slide. Testing and training. So we have resources on, batteries. We have electric school bus training standards. We have a technician training database, and more. Next slide. For performance benefits and scaling. So we have over a dozen different school district case studies written up and district profiles, so you can read about how other school districts are doing it and what they're doing. There are student voice videos and then a lot of general information on the benefits of electric school buses. And if there's anything that you want that we don't have, please let us know. We're here to help make tools and resources to support school districts in adopting electric school buses. Right now, I know we're working on some air quality research, but otherwise, yeah, if there's something else missing, please, reach out to us. Next slide. Yeah, so thank you and happy to answer any questions. My contact information is there, so you can always reach out to me directly, and that has our website and social. Do I know? Sorry, I see a question. Let me check the chat. Show chat.
Michael, feel free to unmute if you want to ask directly. If not, I can read off the questions.
Yeah, I see it. Is that okay? I can read it. Yeah, so V2G. Yeah, so we actually on our website have a map and a database of all the V2G projects, active projects in the country. So we are tracking that. I can send it later. I don't have it I don't have it right now on my screen, but we are, and I don't exactly know the number. There's still just a handful. I know in California, right now we're working with the CEC, California Energy Commission, CEC, on a V2G project in the Bay Area. So we're working with Fremont Unified and Pittsburgh to do like ELRP sessions in California. So I'm happy to like if you are interested in doing that kind of project, there is funding and opportunities for that work through CEC, and I can connect you with schools that are participating in California. You guys actually have opportunities don't exist in a lot of other states. So yeah, I don't know how many, but I can share um, the tracker with you guys with Kat after.
Great.
Um,
Yeah, thank you. I'll take a look and also good to hear about the work that you're doing up in the Bay Area. Definitely
yeah,
interested in learning more.
yeah, and mobility. We're working with Mobility House in Polera, and so yeah, happy to connect you with any of those groups at any point.
Does anyone have any other questions? I have one, Jessica, while you're here.
Yeah.
Um, I guess in terms of like comparing California school districts, specifically in like the Tri-County area, would you say that there are any benefits or maybe challenges that school districts in this region would face?
Well, you guys have really good, like, I think the hardest part for school buses is actually cold weather. It feels like we're in New York, we're like really struggling to get work underway. But you guys have really good weather. So, like, I think you know, but like the batteries are like people, right? They like to be like 70 degrees. So, like, if the buses work perform really well in like temperate type climates, I think you guys have really good weather for it. I don't know what challenge. I mean, I'm not so familiar with your utilities, so that might be a challenge. Like, if somebody might be able to speak to the utility options, like in other parts of the state, they have make ready programs. I know PG&E up in the Bay Area, they have EV fleet program. So they're in San Diego, Gas and Electric has really good funding programs. I'm not sure what your utility offers, so somebody might talk about it later. But that can be a challenge if you don't have good utility rates, things like that, or make ready funding. But the buses should perform great in your area. Like they'll like it, I think.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, any last questions for Jessica? All right, if not, I think that's a good segue into Forefront Power. Sam, I'll pass it off to you.
Great. And thank you, Jessica. Great presentation. I love the idea of happy electric buses. That's a awesome vision. Um, Hello, everyone. Appreciate you guys taking some time this afternoon to learn about electrifying your bus fleet. My name is Sam Zanzinger. I head up our EV and fleet electrification team at Forefront. I'm based in Los Angeles, and so for all my 805 friends, hope you guys are a little drier after the weekend rain and no one had too much damage at your bus yard. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, I'm with Forefront Power. We are a turnkey developer of EV infrastructure, solar, and energy storage. We're headquartered in San Francisco. And as a group, we've been developing these projects for over 15 years. We're actually the number one developer within the California public sector for these resources. And all we really do is focus on EV, solar, and storage. We've successfully deployed over 1,900 projects, and we are a wholly owned subsidiary of a company called Mitsui. Next slide, please. Mitsui is great. They are a massive multinational energy conglomerate, so they bring a really stable parent company to Forefront Power. That allows us to support our California public sector partners by being able to support a single port all the way up to a full fleet electrification. So it allows us to really scale, access, capital efficiently and quickly to be able to move as quickly as possible. And then again, because we have this very stable parent company, the EV sector is really volatile. And so it brings a really long-term partner for electrification. So whether it's your first pilot project or your final electrification, we're here for the whole experience. Next slide, please. So we've been doing this a long time. What have we learned in the process? And I think that just at a high level, a lot of people who are kind of going out on their first time often simplify a very surprisingly complex process of electrification. Um, Things that we see as kind of best practices is really setting yourself up for success, measuring twice, cutting once, and de-risking as much of a project as possible. And these include things like telematic data review, route analysis, making sure that your buses are going to be able to successfully operate and complete routes as they're currently set up, or identifying potential in-route charging or different strategies to be able to maintain the services that you guys are already providing, focusing on the right vehicles. Finding the right interoperable chargers to those vehicles, finding the right charge management software, and really kind of pulling together something that's going to work for your fleet. There's then working through things like conceptual designs, single line drawings, putting together what the plan looks like for the current project, but also maybe thinking about the long-term vision for your bus yard. Chargers have a variety of different dimensions and sizes, electrical needs and outputs. And so making sure all of that kind of works for, again, not just the short term, but really the long-term vision for your facility. Those drawings, the hardware selection, and all of that often feed into also the interconnection piece. And Jessica mentioned just how important that is. Whether you're in PG&E or Edison or SDG&E, there are a variety of different programs. And so engaging with them early and often is really important. A lot of the utilities, as Jessica mentioned, have also unique programs. So making sure that one, you start the process early to determine sufficient capacity and potential upgrades is really important. But then two, also just understanding, hey, am I entering into the right pathway for this project? Could I potentially be missing out on vouchers and incentives if I were to go a different route? And speaking of incentives, just making sure that you kind of touch on as much funding as possible, budget planning, as Jessica mentioned, these zero emission buses often come with a slight premium. But just as any transition in fuel source, thinking about not just the actual vehicle, but also the way to supply fuel is going to transition as well. And so thinking about the true costs of that capital expenditure and then ongoing operational expenses. Finally, just procurement is a real challenge, right? Going out and finding the right partners, understanding all of these different components that go into a successful project. And do you have the time to be able to go out and run a solicitation? Or does it make sense to piggyback and use cooperative purchasing for vehicle or infrastructure? And then finally, the construction and deployment. What's going to make sense for the district? Do you have the capital to be able to move forward with the design build, or is financing infrastructure something that takes a lot of the operational burden off your staff? So next slide, please. So I just went into some of the big highlights, but just kind of getting into more of the considerations that make for successful battery electric transitions for your fleet. Thinking about, again, in a transition of conventional ICE to zero emissions, you're going to be incurring a different kind of cost. What is your relationship with your utility? Are there power outages? Are there increasing electricity costs? So what is something that you might be able to do to offset those costs with things like solar, energy storage, demand response, just figuring out ways to help lower those if you do have some additional CapEx early on. Future proofing, as I mentioned, it's so important. Everyone on this call understands that capital improvement projects are multi-year efforts. And so making sure that you're not just putting a Band-Aid to kind of bridge the immediate project, but really thinking about like what sort of make ready is possible with your utility. As mentioned, there's programs like Rule 29, Rule 45, EV fleet. Some of those are going away, but thinking about, can you size your service to be large enough? Do you have additional chargers for duplicate, kind of resiliency in case chargers go down? Thinking about those things. Again, making sure that you're picking a top tier charger to make sure that in the event that there is damage to chargers in the future, you're going to have confidence that you'll be able to find replacement parts and pieces, things of that nature. And everything on the right that I just mentioned, those are all pieces in the conceptual phase. So that's where you're really thinking about the project, making sure, again, that you're setting yourself up for success when you ultimately do buy your first battery electric vehicle. And then on the left side is really the implementation phase. So again, finding incentives that are going to be able to help offset some of these costs, working with a construction partner that is proven and has experience with the sort of infrastructure, getting a software that's going to be able to deliver information that's useful to you or potentially help reduce those operational costs on an ongoing basis is really important. I know Jessica mentioned the mobility house previously. There are a lot of really strong, charge management programs that are out there to pair with your chargers. And then obviously, do you have staff that are going to be able to support with operations and maintenance? Is this something that you want to go out and get your team trained for? Or does it make sense to have an outside partner that you can reach out to and ensure uptime for these resources? So next slide, please. I mentioned incentives, right? This is a really important piece. If only everyone had money trees in their backyards. So buying electric buses is typically very costly, and then you have the infrastructure that goes along with it. And so figuring out really across a variety of different levels, where can you stack incentives to offset the most cost? And so we see things like at the federal level was once a very fruitful place for incentives, less reliable in the short term there. But really, there are other layers, such as the state oftentimes has really large funding opportunities, but comes with strings attached. The utility programs cover certain aspects of the infrastructure, but oftentimes have smaller voucher amounts. But are still useful to potentially offset costs. And then really where we see the most generous programs and really the best support is locally with your local air districts. And there are many on the call today, but those are all great resources. All four of those levels are also going to cover a variety of different things. Some cover hard costs like the vehicles, the chargers, and things of that nature. And others include soft costs like software, prepaid warranties, things like that. So it's just good to evaluate what programs are really out there for you. Next slide, please. So I mentioned procurement is a really big piece of this, right? Making sure that the infrastructure is in place before your vehicles arrive so you don't have stranded assets is critical. Running an RFP process, if you know exactly what your scope is going to look like, can be really advantageous. Can be really costly and time consuming as well. There is a program that many of you, the school districts can take advantage of today. There's a California-based Joint Powers Authority known as SPUR. SPUR is made up of over 300 California public agencies, and their sole mandate is to run statewide solicitations for utility cost reduction programs. They've got LED lighting, natural gas. They also have a electric vehicle program as well for infrastructure. So this is something that would help you guys get access to no-cost grant services, no-cost conceptual engineering support, no-cost utility support as well, and then also have a very rigorous competitive solicitation for ultimate deployment. Full disclosure, Forefront was the winning provider for this program. We have a lot of experience working with other school districts to help implement these projects. And I can share more about this with anyone that's interested. So next slide, please. And then lastly, I mentioned that there's a variety of different ways that folks can deploy these projects. And this ultimately comes down to your district and what you all are comfortable with. A lot of people have the design build scenario where you have a contractor come in, build infrastructure, and at the end of that construction, the district takes ownership and assumes all operations and maintenance from there. That's something, again, that is often in EV infrastructure common because of incentives flowing through onto the district, and that's the structure that helps with cost. But there are other options as well. So you can finance this infrastructure in some sort of like subscription-based model where there's kind of fixed annual fees that allows you to have no capital X up front. There's a developer that will finance, design, construct, own, and operate the infrastructure. That often comes with things like uptime guarantees and really kind of reduces the ongoing burden for the school district. And then a lot of folks have probably heard of charging as a service, where you kind of wrap the utility cost as well into the infrastructure. And it's basically like a gas pump where your buses would pull up and pay instead of $1 per gallon, $1 per kilowatt hour. Um, and so, yeah, there's a variety of different ways to get infrastructure in place, vehicles in place. I'm happy to share more about those as well, but I think I've reached time. So thank you all, and available for questions after.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Like he said, feel free to throw your questions in the chat and we can address those at the end of our presentations. For now, we'll pass it over to the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District. So go ahead, Holly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Holly Galbraith. I'm with the Ventura County Air Pollution Control District, and I'm just going to briefly talk about our Carl Moyer and our Community Air Protection Program, also known as CAP. So this program can fund a number of different types of projects aimed at reducing air pollution in Ventura County. But for today's meeting, I'm just going to focus on the program requirements for electric school buses and charging infrastructure. So for electric school buses, these are grants in the form of reimbursements for zero-emission school buses, and it can fund up to $400,000 per bus. And this is a replacement program, so you must replace an existing diesel engine school bus in order to receive the new electric school bus. And with this program, it can cover up to 100% of the eligible costs, as well as it has an up to a 10-year grant term. And the longer the grant term, the better chance of your project of receiving funding. It also has a requirement of minimum warranty of 5 years or 75,000 miles for the new electric school bus. And this grant can also be stacked with other programs. And also for, since this is community air protection, the projects must be located in disadvantaged or low income communities. Next slide, please. So for EV infrastructure, again, these are also grants in the form of reimbursements for the charging infrastructure, and it can also cover up to 100% of the eligible costs. For the infrastructure, it has a minimum project life of 3 years and a minimum warranty requirement of 1 year. And it also can be stacked with other programs, but I just want to note that it might not be available to stack with other programs, because some programs require that the project would already be finished before you can qualify for that grant, whereas this grant is a reimbursement. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And similarly, it also must be located in disadvantaged or low income communities. Next slide, please. So with this incentive program, it launches once a year. It's anticipated to next launch in spring 2026. And the application window is usually open from around like late March, early April to mid to late June. And if you want to find out more, this is our website, and I also left a QR code. I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly. Okay, I think Sydney from Santa Barbara Air Pollution Control District is next.
Hi everyone, my name is Sydney Rouse and I'm an air quality specialist with the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District, and I manage our clean air grants for school bus and infrastructure programs, which I'll be highlighting in the next few slides. So there might be some crossover between Holly and Tom and I's presentation, but there are some caveats that I'll be touching on in my presentation. So the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District's Clean Air Grants Program operates as an annual solicitation that opens in late summer each year with an application window of about 40 days. So applications are not reviewed on a first come, first serve basis. Instead, they're evaluated and ranked based on criteria such as project location, with priority for projects located in disadvantaged communities, vehicle or equipment usage, cost effectiveness, emission reductions, eligible costs, and available funding for that year. Our goal is to fund as many projects as possible while keeping awards financially feasible for applicants. Our 2025 Clean Air Grants program closed in early September, and we recently completed our review of all the applications and our ranking process and are now moving forward with sending out grant offers. The 2026 program will launch late next summer. So to receive updates and announcements regarding future funding opportunities, we encourage you to subscribe to our grants email list on our website and also on this slide. So now let's take a closer look at our school bus and infrastructure programs. So our school bus program is open to public school districts within Santa Barbara County. And at our agency, we utilize local DMV registration revenues to fund zero-emission school bus expansion projects. So unlike the programs in Ventura and San Luis Obispo counties, due to the funding source that we're currently using, we do not require school districts to destroy an internal combustion engine bus, but rather school districts are allowed to keep those buses as backup and use our funds for a electric or zero emission school bus expansion project. So school districts may apply for one school bus project per year, and all grants are issued on a reimbursement basis. Grant amounts range from $10,000 to $250,000, depending on eligible costs, co-funding, and available funds. So our program does allow for co-funding with other programs such as state, federal, or other local utility or CCA rebate programs. So those may include the ZESB program, HVIP, and Central Coast Community Energy. So with that being said, we do request that applicants disclose what funding they are applying for in other programs so we can maximize our funding as well as ensure that the out-of-pocket is low as possible for each school district. So for example, from this year's funding program, we have a school district that's receiving about $216,000 from the HVIP program and a little over $200,000 from our Clean Air Grants program to purchase a electric school bus that is going to cost $448,000. So with that being said, we will encourage them to also apply for a rebate from Central Coast Community Energy, also known as 3CE, so that the purchase would require no out-of-pocket cost for the school district. Right, next slide, please. We also encourage school districts that are looking to expand their electric fleet to apply for our Clean Air Grants for Infrastructure program, which provides funding for the installation of charging and fueling stations. Large-scale level 1 charging projects are reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but level 2 and level 3 charging stations make up most of our awards, especially for school bus chargers. As with our other programs, applicants are limited to one infrastructure project per year, but that project can include multiple charging stations at a single site. So districts can apply for funding to install charging infrastructure for school buses, as well as other electric fleet vehicles and even staff or public use. Similar to our school bus program, grants can be combined with other state, federal, or local incentives. And award amounts vary, but are within $10,000 to $250,000 based on project scope, and fund availability and the ranking of the project. Next slide, please. So I know that was quick, but if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we're super excited to support school districts as they transition to zero emission school buses and take action to reduce air pollution within our region. So my contact information is on this slide. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sydney. Okay, and then our last presenter is going to be Tom from SLO County APCD. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, thanks, Kat. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Very similar to Ventura and Santa Barbara is the SLO County APCD with our grants for school buses and charging. We do use the $923 for the DMV as well. And this year we have had a fantastic year. There's 18 new electric school buses in our county. We've been part of 17 of those. We've been able to fund $781,000 this year just in electric school buses, which we're really excited about. Part of that is we were able to co-fund with EPA, HVIP, and 3CE. And so that's been fantastic. Our program opens in July, and we run it for about 2 months, and then we'll close it as far as the application window. And so this next year we'll be opening again in July, and I'll reach out to all my contacts with the various school districts probably in May to let them know, just give them a heads up again. So next slide, please. Part of our funding is we do have the scrappage requirement. And so that little bus that I circled with the no on there is the one that we could not fund. It's below the gross vehicle weight, but there's 18 total buses in our county this year that are getting new electric that I'm aware of. There might be more, but I'm pretty sure we're on top of everything else. So yes, very similar guidelines as far as the new and used buses. I know Jessica had mentioned the average bus was about 15 years old, and we have 2 buses from the 80s that are still being used. So it's exciting to get those off and out of here. So next slide, please. Another thing we do is our charging. And if any of the school districts are thinking about getting buses, let's get chargers now because that takes a lot of time. I know we're very excited. This is one of the projects that we just finished, and this has taken a couple of years to get all these in the ground. And then they're just now getting their buses delivered, which is fantastic. So right now we have just being finished 13 level 2 ports and 2 DC fast chargers for a total of about $860,000. And we do currently have our charger program open. So if you are thinking about moving forward with electric buses, let's get that ball rolling now. One thing that is mentioned, I'm not sure if it was mentioned or not, but that includes eligible expenses, just like the conduit and all the electrical side, but all the trenching and the backfill of the pavement and anything else. So it's really turnkey of what we're able to help out with. And then on top of 3CE helping out with buses, they also help out with chargers as well. So yeah, again, happy to answer any more questions too. And if I don't have your contact information and you're in SLO County, please reach out to me. I got my information on the next slide. And I'm happy to help you out in any way I can. It's been a great year, and we're looking forward to more stuff in SLO County. So
Awesome. Thank you to all the APCDs for sharing all of those funding opportunities. From what it sounds like, it seems like they tend to open over the summer. So I think in terms of planning, if there's any school districts looking to start that process, it's probably a good idea to reach out to them now, ask your questions. With that being said, does anyone have any questions for our presenters now? I'll go ahead and just ask to, I guess, all of you, if you know how long a school district could expect the process to take in terms of, starting that application process to actually being able to use the bus. I don't know if you guys have a sense of how much time that really involves and what, is it a few years, a few months?
Who wants to start? I'll just jump in with our experience. So, like I said, our program's a little bit different potentially, or we don't review on a first come, first served basis. So we do have to wait till our application period is closed, and then we review all of the applications that come in for all of our programs. So in addition to school bus and infrastructure, we also have off-road and marine. So a lot of applications can come in. So we take, 2 months to complete our application review. And then we're able to move forward with sending grant offers. I know school districts also have to bring these decisions to their board, which can take time. Um, but I know a lot of school districts that have applied to our program have worked with a vendor that can apply for them, can apply for the grant for them directly, which I think is really helpful, since we all know school staff are lean and strong. Like there's not a lot of capacity to be able to spend a lot of time on grant applications. Um, but I think it also depends on how many buses they are ordering. I think since COVID and I think the supply chain issues that we experienced during COVID have gotten a lot better, and I see buses that are coming in a lot faster. I would say like at least 6 months to a year, but I'd be curious to see what Tom and Holly have to say.
Yeah, I can speak on that. It's easily a multi-year deal. If you're looking at level 2 chargers, that's going to just be probably 6 months start to finish. Those can go in quick. The DC fast chargers require a whole lot more in that. And most of the school buses, they're just running the morning route and the afternoon route. So the level 2 bus chargers work great. But what we've been seeing is our school districts are really wanting to have the capacity to do extracurricular activities. And if you're thinking of it from an EV perspective, that means they've got to have a lot more power on that. So that's where we're starting to install one, if not one, minimum DC fast charger at that location. And that's a year and a half just waiting on PG&E. And I'm sure Edison probably has the same timelines delays as well. And then ordering the buses takes quite a while too. So that's where I say we're probably 2 years start to finish on when the application was first received. And then by the time we were able to get purchase orders out and then the chargers electrified. So about 2 years is what we were seeing on our side of things. I see a couple school district people on the call, and they can agree with me on that. So
Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat as Sydney, where we have to review a lot of different types of projects when once the application window closes. We've got a lot of like off-road and marine and different types of projects that we review. My supervisor Stephanie's on the call, so maybe she could speak to this. But from my understanding is that our previous electric school bus projects probably have taken it's probably been like at least 6 months to multiple years to complete.
I'll just add in, yes, Holly, thank you for speaking up on that. It is usually a couple of years, and it's I would say both sides, but also just the school buses. There's sometimes some issues that they have to go back before they can get the final school bus, and then with the infrastructure, there's other things at play that will their designs a lot of times change after they get approval for it. They get the grant agreement, so a lot of times it'll take a little longer. Sometimes amendments have to be put in play. So I would say probably closer in line with, well, with both. I would say anywhere from a year to up to almost 3 years sometimes before everything's done. We do have one that had to retrofit and go back, and we had to kind of get an extension and switch things around with CARB just in order for them to be able to see it through.
Yeah,
From Go ahead.
oh, just real quick, school districts are also subject to the state's Division of State Architecture. For all construction projects, they have to be reviewed by DSA, which I have seen from some of our grantees that process has taken a long time, for the infrastructure part.
Sam, did you want to add something in there? Or
I was
yeah,
just gonna, Sydney kind of nailed it. I was gonna say that DSA is one of those things in the grass that you don't see, and then that just like tacks on a ton of time. So uh accounting for the permitting process, districts, I know all the schools on here can appreciate you have your own internal process that you guys have to go through, the people that have to check the box. But from a utility perspective, I think a lot of people have touched on this, and I think this is one of the things that gets neglected. Starting that process as soon as you have the capacity of your chargers figured out. There's also different times of utility response between programs. So you might have PG&E working on a Rule 29 project, but if it was a Rule 16 project, you may experience a very different timeline to get service online versus like an EV fleet program. So utility to utility is different, but then within a utility, you also have different timelines that can really speed you up or slow you down.
that is good to know. Anyone else have any last thoughts or questions?
I will just add that when we have to go out and inspect the buses and the infrastructure before we're able to reimburse our grantees. And the technicians that I've talked to and the school bus drivers that I've talked to that they have received electric buses do really seem to like them. And they seem to tick a lot of the boxes. They're quiet, so I think the neighbors really like them. And a lot of them have new technology that some of these older buses didn't have, safety measures. So obviously, it's a lot of work, and we understand that. But I do feel as though locally we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback when schools have completed the projects.
All right. It's almost 4 p.m., so I think we can start wrapping up. I'll just leave it open for any last thoughts before we close. All right, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And again, all of this will be posted to the Electric Ride 805 website. And your contacts are all on the slides, so you should be able to get in contact with our presenters if you want more information. Go
Kat,
ahead.
sorry, I forgot to make one plug. Um, there is in within the 805, there is someone that I've been talking with at Ventura County, who some of you may be familiar with. There is an excess grant available. So if anyone is interested in finding chargers for your schools. There is a state, or sorry, the CEC has Reach 2.0 grant funding for public chargers. If you guys are considering for staff, I promised my contact at Ventura County I would make this plug. Potentially funds level 2 and level 1 chargers for the public. So if anyone is looking for non-school bus charging support as well, I'm happy to connect you guys with them.
And Sam, I'm the principal investigator on that Reach 2.0 grant. So thank you so much for making that plug.
Hey, Katie.
It is meant to serve multifamily housing. So just as a note, if you are going for those charging, they need to be able to serve multifamily housing within a quarter mile. But we have situated some of them at UCSB, at Santa Barbara School District sites. So it doesn't have to be an apartment building as long as those parking spaces are available available to multifamily housing renters within a quarter mile of the property. And then like employees of your district can also benefit in addition to those multifamily housing residents which would have access. So if anybody has questions, I'm also happy to put my contact information in the chat as well. And you're welcome to reach out to me if you are interested or know a site that's interested. We are looking for folks in San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura County. So any of those 3 counties are potentially a good fit for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie, and thank you, Sam. Okay. Yeah, I think that's everything. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. But again, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to